Today I just wanted to talk about the funeral process and what it all meant to me. It's something that makes me uncomfortable, but I just wanted to put it out there, get my raw thoughts, and maybe you guys can sympathize. Maybe you guys have been through funerals yourself. This was my first one that I've ever known the person. I've only been to maybe one or two other funerals. I don't remember them. I was little and I didn't even really know the person. They were older, which doesn't justify it, but it does mean they lived a good portion of their life. So when you see somebody like Alex, 24 years old, and he passes, it's like you had so much left. You had so much life left. You didn't get to see, you didn't get to experience, and that's why on a lot of levels, I just think that I need to be doing it for him. And of course myself. You should be doing anything for yourself first and foremost before you do it for anyone else. One thing that I'm really big on is the idea of loving yourself, is looking in the mirror and being comfortable with the person that you see. And for a very long time, I was not like that. I hated the person I saw. And it took a lot of years of working on myself and consciously altering and changing my thought patterns to get to the point where I can look in the mirror and be like, you know what? I got this. It's hard. It's so difficult, but it's a process and you have to start somewhere. If you're willing to change, then you will. Let me preface. I wanted Alex, and Alex wanted to be cremated. That was his wish to me, is, yo, if I ever die, I want to be cremated. Spread my ashes in a Mazda Millennia, you know? So his mom made the decision that he was going to be buried, and you have to respect Mama's decision. Mama's always right. So Mama wants you to be buried, you'll be buried. Mama wants you to be cremated, you'll be cremated. I had a conversation with her to give her my side, and she completely understood, but she made the ultimate decision, and she thought it was best for her life and her family. And there's no shame in that. The idea that he was supposed to be cremated, and then the idea of seeing him in an open casket really fucked me up. It really did, because to me, and everyone has their own differing opinions on afterlife and death and what it all means and what you should do to honor people and whatever, but the idea of being cremated to me just seems so much more peaceful. Here you are, I can keep you in this little urn and carry you anywhere I go, or a really big sentimental moment, you can spread the ashes. Spreading the ashes is the climax of being at peace. Whereas when you think of a person in an open casket and then being buried, you think of like the bugs eating out their insides, and you think all this terrible stuff. But when it's cremation, you don't really. To me, it's way more peaceful, is the point that I'm trying to get at. But it was an open casket, so I walked into the church, and immediately my eyes are drawn. Like, there's tons of people there in the pews and just lined up, and everyone's talking, but my eyes averted every single person and went right to the casket. Like, I didn't even know where the casket was in the room, but it's like the presence of it. Yeah, without a hesitation, my eyes locked onto him. And what's even weirder about that is that it didn't, even from across the room, I didn't know who it was. I was like, who is that person in the casket? We're in the wrong room. It's almost like my vision was like this. It's like, I walk in, breaks neck, look over at the casket, and then it's like I had to follow it. I had to go right up to it, and I did. And that was seeing him the way he was. I could not stop staring at him. I couldn't take my eyes off of him for a second. I was mesmerized in the worst of ways. Paralyzed, if anything. Because as I looked at him, I couldn't help but notice all the things that were wrong about that situation. There's, between how he looks, he didn't look like him. There's the fact that he was in a suit, and it's like he would have never been in a suit. There was the fact that I hadn't seen him in 2 years, and here we are, standing right next to, I was standing, he's laying right next to each other for the first time in more than 2 years, and I can't even, like, I see you, I can't talk to you, you can't, well, I can talk, but you can't talk back. So that was, it was, the open casket of the funeral was the most emotional part of the whole thing, and that's why I think being cremated would be so much more peaceful. Alex didn't look like that. So why do I want to remember him looking like that? Because that image of him in the casket has replayed in my mind tons and tons of times. It's been in my nightmares. It just randomly pops up out of nowhere, and it's like, again, why I don't want to remember him in a way that he didn't look like that. He didn't look like... If you've been to an open casket, then you can attest to the fact that the person looks like a mannequin. They look like plastic. His head looked bigger, his eyes looked bigger, he looked and he had makeup on, which obviously you want to make him look more lively for the sake of the funeral, but it's just like, it was all wrong. Everything about it was wrong. The biggest part was just remaining strong, because a lot of his family members there were so emotionally drained, and they were feeling it so much that it felt like a responsibility to be stronger than I am for their sake. And there was a few times where I don't even know how to describe it, but I was crying in such a way that it was unnoticeable. Like, I was in the back, everyone's looking forward, and I'm just sitting there like just teared up. But you couldn't tell. After the funeral, I went back to his apartment, and while I was hanging out, I just randomly had some thoughts that poured in, and I put them in my notes, and I'd just like to share that with you guys. It's somewhat of a poem, I guess, but it's about seeing Alex for the first time in the open casket. Pale, eyes heavy, hands cold to the touch. You look like plastic and feel hollow. I don't even recognize you. Who are you? This isn't you. It can't be. Where are you? I don't feel you. Your presence is empty. Go back. Look for signs. Replay memories. Nothing. When I get to the point where I feel like I'm comfortable enough to create again, that's when I will. It's a process. One thing I realized from starting to do this daily uploading thing is the concept that I went through a grieving process on my own and in my personal life, and now it feels like I'm going through a grieving process online. I'm gonna start talking about more the nostalgic stuff between us, and going through like Troll House Easter eggs and talking about that. So I wanted to get through today, talk about the most weighing thing on my mind, and then everything after this will be a little bit more of a lighter tone, because I know you guys have been worried about me, and you see how it's affecting me, but I'm getting there. I'm getting back to myself. It's a process, but we'll make it. We're gonna get through this. Let me know what goals you're working on, what you want to achieve. I always harp on it, but it's what I care about the most. So just let me know, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.